WNST Towel 52 coverage ongoing. It's all brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, and we do appreciate them stepping up this week, as well as Royal Farms and our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club, where they'll be racing at Laurel this weekend, and the entries will be in your WNST morning newspaper digitally as it reaches your email inbox, brought to you by Planet Fitness. We are on Radio Row. She has this is my 25th Super Bowl in 27 years. I missed 2 back in the 90s. And you've been a part of the last 20 on Radio Row. We welcome the great Lesley Visser back on. And this is a special place for you, right? The Minnesota Super Bowl holds a special significance for you. It does for me as well. It was my first Super Bowl.
It was. I'm sure that was our first time together then. Well, but it was extraordinarily special for me because I was and remain the only woman to have presented the Lombardi Trophy, and it was 25 years ago.
This is a damn shame you had to do it to the Redskins, you know. I mean, it really comes down to it, you know.
Well, do you know, did I ever tell you, like, no one's listening to this, right?
No, we have no listeners. Just ask Jane Goldstrom. She'll tell you that.
Okay,
so, yes.
one. Well, okay. Well,
anybody sees Jane, tell her no one's listening.
No one's listening. Well, when I started covering the NFL, there were, of course, no provisions for equality. So for the first 7 years, I would have to be in the parking lot, interviewing the players. So I'm here comes Burt Jones. I mean, you have to say probably the handsomest man in America. Then,
I know you love Burt.
I did love. Well, so Burt
Girls
said,
loved Burt.
Everyone
Girls
loved
stole
Burt.
Burt.
Boys wanted to be Burt. So Burt says to me, "Hey, you want to come to Baltimore? You know, I'll give you a round trip ticket." And I went into my thing. Absolutely not. This is my job. I take it seriously. And he went, "Hey, you're not that great." And he's such a gentleman that he says that's not how it went, but that is how it went.
Well, you remember it differently 40 years later, maybe, than he does, right?
Well, there's still time, Bert.
You know, for this Super Bowl and what this thing's become, and I've told the story already this week. I mean, I got in my car in 1992, drove out here. I had taken a buyout from the Baltimore Sun. I was a journalist like you. I worked at the Baltimore Sun. I left. I was 23 years old. And John Stedman, and there's a name that you will nod, he got me tickets. I thought the Oilers were going to be in the game out here, and I drove out here. And the Radio Row was literally a row. It was down at the Hyatt in downtown, the Grand Hyatt in Minnesota. And it was the first time I ever broadcast. I called back to Kenny Albert's show. Kenny is my radio godfather. He was doing the Baltimore Skipjacks games. And he was hosting the show, and I was the reporter in Minnesota in 1992 calling back. And now, like the mall, and it's my 25th Super Bowl, I just wanted to have tickets for once.
Just to get to one.
Just to go
And do you know what the big thing was then, 25 years ago, was I remember that Pat O'Brien, the great Pat O'Brien, was able to get us into Palomino's. Do you remember that was the big restaurant? You probably didn't get in there. But Pat O'Brien, you know, Smooth Pat.
He knew some people in L.A.
Yeah, right. We're everywhere, and he's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay.
But he knew people everywhere, and he got us into Palomino. That was the big thing. But I remember being at the production meeting, and there were people like Brent Musburger and Terry Bradshaw there, and the producer, the great Ted Shaker, said, and for the post game, we're going to have Lesley Visser present the trophy. And everybody's mouth, including mine, fell open.
So you didn't know till the meeting?
No.
They didn't tell you ahead of time?
No. And what I remember from it, yes, it was the Redskins. It was when Mark Rippon was the quarterback against Buffalo. And we always underrate Jim Kelly, I think.
All we ever do in that game is talk about Thurman Thomas's helmet.
Correct.
That's the story of that game, right, Luke? Yeah, I mean,
Sure, and the woman who presented the trophy.
That other part.
Well, that's the real story.
That's a real. But all I remember was, and you know this yourself, so we do the post game, and Jack Kent Cook, who you probably met over the years late, he took the microphone. I gave up the mic.
We didn't like him in Baltimore, just so you know. Yeah.
Well, he took the mic, which, you know, you learn never give up the mic, right? So here's, as you know, the Super Bowl goes around the world. So here, people in the Pacific Rim, this is what they're hearing. Our producer, Bob Stenner, yelling, "Get the effing mic back from Jack Kent Cook." So you see this like wrestling match. Yes, it was like ridiculous.
Put your foot up and pull it back. Lesley Visser's joining us here. The book is Sometimes You Have to Cross When It Says Walk.
It says don't walk.
Don't walk. I've been doing that for like forever, you know.
Well, that's why you are the
cross
success.
barriers here. How long's the book been out? Give me a story. I can't believe you haven't written 10 books already.
Do you know what
You're a writer, for crying out
yes.
loud. People think you're just a pretty girl on TV. You're a writer. This is what you did.
Wrote for the do you know when I wrote for the Boston Globe, as you know, greatest sports section. I mean, was Peter Gammons on baseball, Bob Ryan on basketball.
The great Vince Doria.
Vince Doria was our
Who didn't
editor.
hire me, so maybe he's not so great.
He
But
was great. But it was Bud Collins on tennis. So when CBS came to me, I was like, why would I leave the Globe? You know,
Vince Doria. I sent in so. My background was 86 to 92. I was 18 to 23. All I wanted to do was get a job and be John Stedman.
Yeah,
or
sure.
Ken Rosenthal or John Eisenberg. Any of I wanted to be a columnist, right? And I wrote letters to every newspaper. I have them all. I've shown them to Luke. I have 600 rejection letters from every newspaper in America on letterhead. Vince Doria, however, his is not full letterhead. I got a memo sheet, a little 5x7 from Vince with the Boston Globe on it. And Vince didn't like – a lot of them were like a form letter that were like a ditto, you know. And you knew there was no – Vince wrote me
he was special.
a letter and told me that I should forge ahead and that I was going to be something in this. Like, he wrote me I don't know. I still have never met Vince Doria. I only know his name. I don't even know what he – if he was sitting here, I wouldn't know him.
Oh, this is how great Vince is, which
but he was a legendary sports editor.
Oh, legendary.
Yeah,
well, I wrote about this. Thank you for mentioning the book. I'll tell you about the title in a minute. But Vince once, in 1980, called me into his office and said, oh, you don't want to go to Lake Placid. It's just going to be cold up there. Really lousy. You're not going to go there. You're going to cover box lacrosse. That's right. So years later, when I worked with Al Michaels, I said,
do you believe in miracles?
I said, that was he's great to work with. And I said, really, that was a true story, that when that the center of the world was in Lake Placid, but I was covering box lacrosse.
What else did you miss that you wish you didn't miss? Is there any other part you almost got that you didn't get? That you missed, because you were famously the '86 American.
I was at everything.
All the World Series in '86, all the Mets and all that stuff.
All the Final Fours, all the. There was that year '92 that I presented the trophy. I was in Minneapolis so much because we did the World Series here. The Final Four was here.
Homer Hankies.
Yeah, the Baggies out in.
Absolutely.
Blackjack Morris. It was great, but we did everything here, and I was so often in Minneapolis that. In '92, that I was on the cover of Northwest Magazine, airline magazine, because I was here so much. But the reason that I wrote this title, Sometimes You Have to Cross When It Says Don't Walk, was because in the early '60s, women. I don't know what your mom. What did your mom do for a job?
My mom worked. She was a PBX operator in the late '50s. In the '50s.
Oh well, that's pretty good. But most women around that era, early '60s, they were either teachers, homemakers, or nurses. That's really kind of
or secretary.
Or a secretary, or perhaps a domestic. But anyway, they weren't. So my mother said to me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a sports writer." Which was like saying you want to go to the moon.
Right.
So instead of dissuading me, she said, that's great. Sometimes you have to cross when it says don't walk.
Very cool.
Oh, so this is from your mom.
From my mom.
Oh,
pretty cool.
That's even better.
Permission.
I like the story even better. A memoir on breaking barriers. Why have you not written 10 or have you written 10 books that I'm not aware of? I mean, everyone thinks of you as television, and I'm making a big career move on Friday that I'm announcing here on the radio, writing a blog and stuff. But my background is writing. People think of me as the radio guy, but I've written. I think on my tombstone it'll say writer, and if you were ever a writer,
you're always a writer.
You're always a writer.
No,
and
you know why I didn't? Because so many people on TV, they do an as told to, and I thought I have the privilege of being in the Sports Writers Hall of Fame. And I thought that'd be pretty weak, right? Why
do you need me to write your book, right?
Well, I just couldn't, and so I couldn't get around to it. I thought it was really hard. And then I have people like, Idiot Shaughnessy, one of my oldest friends, saying, if I write it, it'd be a lot better.
I can hear him saying
Of course. I said, that's why I didn't get it. That's why I got a blurb from Joe Torre and Dan Marino and not you.
All right, so let's get after this from the home market standpoint. We mentioned the Boston Globe and Boston. Blah, 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 blah. They're here again. I mean, how many do they need to? I remember when Boston were the losers. Remember that? 86, you, runner, Buckner.
Yeah.
Now it's nothing but winning, and that's all they do. It's a different. And Boston's such a great sports town. You've been a writer there. It's always had this passion and energy that now they expect to win again.
Well, you know what it is? It is a dynasty now, and having covered the Patriots when they were not a dynasty, I can tell you that they've earned it. They've earned it. I mean, I really think it's death, taxes, and Tom Brady.
I hope you're wrong this week.
Well, make the case for Philly for me, because we can all make the case for the Patriots. The one thing I think is all the Patriots Super Bowls are close.
Everyone has said that. Well, and the case would be you look up and see Nick Foles, and you look up and see Tom Brady, and you say, how's he going to beat him in this game when that guy doesn't lose this game? And I think it's very hard to make a case for Philadelphia other than he's been calm, defense has played well, line of scrimmage has been good,
team.
And the Patriots have not been done. This is not the Patriots' best team.
No.
Not by far. So I think for that reason and the fact that Brady's getting older and
I think the formula is I think Philadelphia can do a lot of the things that Jacksonville did in the first half in the AFC Championship, but Jacksonville took their foot off the gas. I mean, they got too conservative.
Also, Gronkowski was not.
And no question.
Yeah, we haven't brought him up.
But I think it's them being aggressive. I mean, the one thing that Philadelphia did, started the second half, they had a big lead.
Sure.
They could have easily sat on the football.
But it always you talk,
sure,
and then Brady has 5 rings.
No doubt. No doubt. But that's the argument if it happens.
But the one thing is people forget that Brady was a backup.
Very true.
So
are you on Twitter, Facebook?
I don't do either of them.
No, you just do books.
No, I wanted to live. I wrote about it in this book, how I didn't want to have one of those lives. I see too many young people doing this now. They're not living anymore. They're just Twittering or tweeting. And remember in All the President's Men, when anything any one of us would say, Dustin Hoffman would run to the men's room and stuff himself in a stall and write it down. I just didn't want to have that life. So, no.
You've been a writer long enough.
Yeah, and
journalist long enough.
This is for you, too, when you start your blog, that when I went from print to TV, I just said, I'm still writing. Instead of typing, I'm speaking. So that's what's going to be for you. Instead of writing it on radio.
Well, my thoughts are well known. I will be heard. Always good to see you. Sometimes you have to cross when it says don't walk.
Amazon or right here at Barnes & Noble.
We're in the mall.
Oh, yeah, we are.
I needed a shave yesterday. I thought, I'm in the mall. I easily get shaving cream in here. It
No.
was not easy to. There was no pharmacy in the mall.
No,
there's no pharmacy in the mall. What's a mall without drugs?
But I went to CVS yesterday. I could not believe, East Coast people that we are, I couldn't believe the second I got in CVS here, they were like, how may we help you? Do you need a cart? What are you looking for? I said, I don't know, magazines. Aisle 12 coming over. They were so nice.
On the East Coast, a little voice comes up. If you need it, just bring it up to the front and scan it.
And you check out yourself.
You can't find human beings on the East Coast.
Here, they're so nice.
You betcha. They're friendly here.
Good to see you.
I asked the girl when she gave me a sample of some shaving cream over at the ladies' store. She gives me a little sample of it, and I said, "Are you being Minnesota nice to me?" She's like, "No, that's not a good thing, Minnesota nice means you're nice, and then
means you're being phony.
Yeah, it means you're.
Oh, it does.
It means Minnesota nice means when you leave. That's when they. That's the
maybe they said Minnesota ice.
That's the hockey team.
There is a genuine Minnesota nice, but there's the connotation that it's disingenuous.
Oh, I never heard that.
Well, the term Minnesota nice means fake nice. It kind of.
You've never been accused of. He's never been accused of Minnesota nice. No, I bet no one has ever said those words.
Disingenuous has never been associated with me.
No, that's
most
true.
people know where I
That's
sit.
true.
Like it or love it. Lesley Visser. Sometimes you have to cross when it says don't walk. Book is available. A memoir of breaking barriers, and she's done that. We're trying to break some barriers here at the Mall of America. To Super Bowl 52. It's our 25th Super Bowl broadcasting here. It's all brought to you by Howard Bank as well as our friends at Rofo. Go get that the Royal Farms app and rewards and the gas and bring me some fried chicken. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.